You're listening to the Parents of Hardworking Teens podcast, episode 136, the critical thing that your teen needs to know about any text they are studying or analysing for English, whether it is for an analytical essay or they're preparing for an unseen text that they haven't actually seen yet for an exam. Then this episode is all about knowing exactly what it is that they need to know in order to make their responses clear, high quality, and smoother and easier to plan, construct, and write. I'm Katie Jones, and with over 15 years in education as an award-winning high school teacher, international external examiner, and as a study coach, I've helped thousands of students skyrocket their results and confidence. And this podcast is where I share all my insights, tactics, and tips with you, the parent, so you can help your hardworking teen get happy, smart, and successful in their study, and have you both enjoy the journey along the way. This is the Parents of Hardworking Teens podcast. Hey VIPs, how are you going? I hope things are great for you and your teens right now. I am recording this right after a beautiful dog walk in the sunshine this morning, which was especially lovely because we've had pretty much a week of rain here. Plus, I'm not sure if you can hear, but I've had a bit of a cold, so things are now feeling bright and happy. The laundry is on, and I have something very specific that I want to talk to you about today in your teen study. Just before I do get into that, I want to quickly share that the Exam Mastery Workshop that I ran a couple of weeks ago live is now available to purchase for your teen. That is the full recording of the workshop, the workbook, and also I'm including 2 complimentary bonus resources because the workshop will deliver the skills and exam technique to have them catapult their exam confidence and performance. And then the special bonuses are all about the exam prep. They'll have them immediately up-leveling their exam preparation, their revision, right in time for any trials and then finals that they have coming up, or end-of-year exams if they're not yet in year 12 or 13. Those bonuses are 17 ways to make revision more active. And by active, I mean the opposite of passive. In other words, it's way more effective and also faster to do, so they can get more done in the time that they have for their revision. Plus 5 effective ways to use past papers much more strategically. These are strategies, practical actions that aren't just doing the questions or practicing the papers under timed conditions. These are skills and actions that are fast and super effective and don't take hours to do, but give the same, if not honestly more, reward because they are all skill and strategy based. Rather than just testing, do they know the answers? Do they have the subject knowledge? It's more about how to answer those questions, dissecting those questions, figuring out how they're going to be marked, where the marks are coming from, what gets reward, what doesn't, and essentially how to have them practice getting more bang for their buck when they are in that exam. So if you want to check that out, the workshop, the workbook, and the bonuses, it is at www.greytransformation.com/EMW. That's the letters E for exam, M for mastery, W for workshop. Now, into this episode, and this is one of those episodes that you might actually want to forward on to your teen and have them give this a listen if they are willing, because it is super tangible and it's something that I have been raising, coming back to, repeating and asking so much recently on coaching calls, on private sessions, group calls, you name it. It has been a constant area of focus and guidance that I have been working on with students. And that's from students in years 7 and 8 up to years 12 and 13 who are working on English tasks based on texts. So either these are texts that they have been studying in class, like where they're working up to, some sort of analytical essay, where they're analyzing a text that they've actually been studying. Maybe it's a review or an opinion piece on a text that they've studied. Sometimes it might even be their own creative piece, like when they're having to retell part of the story or narrative from an alternative perspective. Or one that's become quite popular these days in schools is this reimagining a text. So they have to take an aspect of that text and put it into a new context or adapt it for a modern day situation. This is also, though, for unseen texts that your teen is trying to prep for. And I know students often find that challenging, or they feel like, I can't really prep for this exam because I don't know what the text is going to be. And I can tell you that is not the case. So to be clear, when I say text, that could be a novel, a play, a movie, a poem, a text extract, a documentary, or even something visual like a poster or an advertisement. But in any of those things, there is a critical thing that students need to be able to discern about that text. And I say critical because it is essential that they are linking to this thing, explicitly referring or connecting to it in their responses and writing. And what that critical thing is are the themes and the message of their text. And I'll say that again. They need to know the themes and, even more specifically, and this is the thing I'm really going to dive deep on, the message of their text. Because in my experience, I don't think enough students, A, know really what the message is, or they can't really convey it or explain it very clearly. And B, some don't even really realize that they need to know it. And I say that with a lot of empathy and understanding because I certainly did not know this as a student. I didn't really realize that there was this key or core message that was supposed to be coming through that I was supposed to be referring to and using and being super aware of and being explicit with in my responses. And I will say I somehow still got a B in my GCSE English by being oblivious to this. So even if your teen's already doing well, that doesn't necessarily mean that they are doing this perfectly or brilliantly or even well, because I can tell you it would have made everything so much clearer for me. I would have felt so much more confident and I would have been so much more competent in my work if I had have known these things. Now, also to be clear, I am not an English specialized teacher. So this is not coming from English specific teacher training. And so if any educator wants to correct me on anything here, then I'm very welcoming of that. But where this is coming from is having marked for a variety of national writing tests and Year 12 writing exams and being formally exam board trained for those and for analysis exam questions in general, including analysis of sources and texts provided in exam conditions. An example would be the QCS extended response questions that I've marked for previously. Also through my relief teaching that I've done over the years where I'm covering or sometimes even leading English lessons and classes. Plus, this is something that has gradually become more and more and more apparent and important to me through my work supporting students within Rock Solid Study, in my research and real life experience in creating the 10-week Grade Transformation Program, in researching and delivering my advanced trainings like Hit the Top Criteria in extended responses, and in my direct coaching with students on their own real life tasks. I cannot tell you how many essay questions, exam board samples, and task sheets I have dissected, how many marking criteria, how many grade boundary descriptors I have scrutinized around this. And all of this has led me to realize just how important it is that there's a specific message or purpose of a text, and just how critical that message or purpose is to everything else involved in any student task, whether it's the evidence that they have to find, whether it's the quotes that they have to analyze, whether it's the analysis of the literary techniques, the context of the text. Because here's the thing, every text that is studied in school has core or overarching themes and a key message that it is conveying. A purpose behind the text, something that it is trying to make the reader or audience think or feel. Now, let me be clear, this is not necessarily the case for every text that is out there. I can certainly tell you that the frivolous, feel-good, trashy stuff that I read as I try to switch my brain off when I go to bed each night, that stuff is just pure entertainment and amusement. It's what you'd call chocolate for the brain. There is nothing especially insightful or poignant in there. But those aren't the types of texts being selected by exam boards and schools. or at least they hope they aren't, because in schools, it is texts that have some message for society that are being studied, some meaningful takeaway for the reader. And this is the critical thing your teen needs to know with absolute clarity. There are general themes to their texts, and there are specific messages. So let me break those two down a little bit further. I would say that a theme is something like power or love or identity or greed or gender stereotypes or growing up or mental illness or family. Now notice that these tend to be one word, or at least one general thing that could be shown in different ways. So I'll give you some examples from texts that I have been looking up recently for students as we've tackled this in their assignments, so that you can see where I'm going with this. So one text a student has been having to do an extended response on recently, and I worked with them on, was on the text About a Boy by Nick Hornby. Now, About a Boy has themes according to lit charts, because I can tell you, I've only ever watched that movie. I've never read the book, and even that was a long time ago. So I went to lit charts to check, because we were getting into, okay, what are the main themes and what is the message of this text? So About a Boy has themes of chosen family, coming of age, loneliness, isolation, mental illness, identity, and fitting in. Now, there's some overlap between some of those, okay? But can you see how they're all like standalone, general, one word, for the most part, themes? And for a different example, another student was doing an analytical essay on Macbeth. So also, according to lit charts, the themes in Macbeth are ambition, fate, violence, the supernatural, and manhood and masculinity. Again, all pretty much one word themes. They tell us that these things are covered or involved in the text, but they don't tell us much more than that. A message, however, is a lot more specific. So when I ask students, hey, what's the message of this text? Here's how I say that. I ask them to tell it to me in one simple sentence, in words that a 10-year-old could understand. And the message is the thing that the author wants the reader or the audience to think or feel at the end. It's the key takeaway they want them to take with them. It's the purpose of that text. So for the examples that we're using here, the message, according to, in this case, SparkNotes, another online study guide that I like to use, is a cautionary tale about the corrupting nature of unchecked ambition and the destructive consequences of pursuing power through immoral means. Notice that it's using and it's integrating some of those words around the themes like ambition, but it's got a more specific message about ambition. Now, that is one sentence, but it's probably not really a simple sentence in words that a 10-year-old can understand. So I would break that down into something like, the play is a warning that ambition, when taken too far, along with a lack of morals, leads to tragedy for that person and for others around them. See how clear that is. Basically, it's a warning about ambition, that it can be the undoing, the downfall of that person and others around them. And the message for About a Boy is that people need human connection in order to thrive. And sometimes these connections can be through unlikely friendships. Again, this is using some of the words that we're given in the themes, but it has a lot more focus and meaning and direction in it. It's a lot clearer as to what that actual text is about and what it's telling us. Now, here's why your teen needs absolute confidence and clarity in the themes and message of their text. It's because any essay question or task is going to hinge on that in some way, shape, or form. Sometimes it will be more obvious and explicit, and sometimes it will be a little bit more subtle. So let's say, for an example, they have a classic analytical essay where they're analyzing the text. All of their points of their paragraphs, all of the analysis of the evidence or quotes that they use needs to show how that message is conveyed and how it ties into the topic and the focus of the specific essay question. If it's for a piece of creative writing, for a reimagined scene, the core message of the original text still has to be maintained. It's just the context and setting that needs to be different. In fact, what you'll actually find is that the purpose of a reimagining or a creative task based on an original text is to see if the student does actually grasp what that underlying message is. And it's testing their skills in being able to adapt the text but keep the core message. And if they're having to do some kind of review or opinion piece, then the takeaway for the audience needs to be clear. And that takeaway is the message. And the impact on the audience is often the thing that is actually needing to be reflected on in these sorts of tasks. Now, can your teen still complete those tasks without being 100% clear on the key themes and core message? Yes, they can. But will their points and evidence likely be more discerning and well chosen if they do have those things? Will their reimagined scene have more direction and purpose? And will their opinion piece have a clearer focus? I would argue absolutely yes. And will all of those things be faster and easier for them to put together because they have a clearer idea of what they're supposed to be conveying and focusing on? Also, in my opinion, yes. So here's my advice. Before your teen starts writing or even planning their writing for any task or exam question or analytical essay in response to a text, they need to first check in on, do they know what the themes and the core message or intended takeaway is of that text? And if not, that should be their very first step before doing anything else, to figure those out and be able to explain them to you or their teacher or indeed the marker of their assessment clearly, succinctly, in words that a 10-year-old can understand. Now, they don't have to use 10-year-old style vocabulary in their response, but if they can't explain it clearly verbally, then they probably don't know it clearly enough. So that is a bit of an insight as to what I have been doing a lot of focus on and asking a lot of questions around in coaching recently. If you would like this type of in-depth support and guidance for your teen on their own tasks, including, we also have our English focus coach, Gemma Toms, who works with us, then send an email to support@rocksolidstudy.com. Let me know your teen's current year group, and I will send you details of how they can get this kind of coaching on a regular, twice weekly basis, plus additional support and resources and advanced trainings as well. And as a reminder, if you want exam-specific training, all skills and strategies around exam technique, then you can go check out the Exam Mastery Workshop, www.gradetransformation.com/EMW. I'll put the direct link to it in the show notes. And I wish your teen and yourself a wonderful rest of your week, and I'll see you back here next time. Bye. If you're ready to have your teen achieve their best possible results with less stress, then I want to invite you to enroll them in the 10-week Grade Transformation program, where they're going to learn the key concepts, skills, and strategies to catapult their performance in assessments and exams. It's risk-free. They either achieve bigger and better results with a whole lot more confidence in 10 weeks, or we refund you in full. Just head over to www.rocksolidstudy.com/program, and I'll see you there.